When we were getting a divorce, my ex-husband insisted on fighting me for custody of our son. Confidently, he said, "How about we ask him what he thinks?" Our son was holding his phone, and after glancing calmly at me, he asked, "Are you really planning to go through with this?" I nodded, saying, "Yes." He then lowered his head and kept playing his game. "I'll stay with my mom. Make sure she gets more of the assets, though. I'm afraid she won't be able to support herself." He pulled our son into the study, worried I wanted to follow, but the door slammed shut right in my face. From inside, I could hear Erick's irritated voice. "Lucas, I'm asking you again. Do you really want to stay with your mom? Don't say I didn't warn you your mom's just a housewife. Do you really think she can take care of you?" My son responded nonchalantly. "Dad, honestly, it doesn't really matter who I stay with. The main thing is Aunt Luna is pregnant. With my little brother, if I stay with you, I'm afraid it'll upset her." Even someone as thick-skinned as Erick must have felt a little embarrassed when our son brought up his affair. The voices inside the room grew quieter. I couldn't make out what they said after that, but I felt a wet, itchy sensation crawling up my face. When I reached up to wipe it away, the more I wiped, the more tears came. I sat motionless on the couch, burying my face in my hands, unable to hold back the sobs. I don't know how much time passed, but eventually, the door to the study opened again. Erick walked over to me, seeing me with my head buried in tears. He seemed to feel a little guilty. He handed me a tissue and said slowly, "Lucas will stay with you." I raised my tear-streaked face. "You can have the car and the house, and I'll give you 500,000 yuan. If you agree, we can settle this tomorrow." I stared at him in a daze. To be honest, I was the one who wanted the divorce. But as for how to actually go through with it, I had no idea. "Don't give her the car," Lucas suddenly spoke up. I snapped out of it, and a bitter smile crept onto my lips. After all, they say blood is thicker than water. In the end, he still sided with his dad. My mom's driving skills aren't great. It'd be a waste if she didn't use it, and a crime if she did. Let's just take the cash instead. Your car's worth at least 700,000 or 800,000 yuan. It's a house and 1,000,000 yuan in cash? That's pretty reasonable. Erick's eyes darkened as he looked at Lucas. Lucas just shrugged indifferently. Erick turned his gaze away. "All right, let's do it that way. Tomorrow at 9, meet me at the Civil Affairs office." The door closed, and with it, my heart clenched. As Erick walked away, I wondered if he'd ever come back. We'd fallen in love in college young, sincere and pure. I had believed we would grow old together. But somehow, things ended up like this. "Mom." Lucas's voice pulled me out of my sadness. "I'm hungry. You made dinner?" I quickly stood up, wiping away my tears. "I'll go buy some groceries now." His voice carried a hint of frustration. "Mom, you're about to get 1,000,000 yuan. Can't we just eat out for once?" I took Lucas downstairs to a barbecue restaurant. He wrapped a piece of pork belly in lettuce and handed it to me. "Mom, it's an all-you-can-eat place. You better eat a lot to get your money's worth." I took the wrap and put it in my mouth, but it tasted like sawdust I couldn't swallow. I thought about everything I'd read online about the psychological impact divorce has on children. I carefully chose my words before speaking. "Son, even though your dad and I are getting divorced, he's still your father. It's okay if I hate him, but you don't have to. I don't hate him." He flipped the chicken wings on the grill, and you shouldn't hate him either. Hating someone is exhausting. Sitting across from me through the rising smoke, I could barely see his face. He was quiet that morning, lost in thought, when Lucas knocked on my door. "Mom, it's time. Let's go." I snapped back to reality. Why did it feel like he was more eager about our divorce than his father? I opened the door, looked at him suspiciously. "Why aren't you in school?" He gave me a complicated look. "Mom, it's July 1st, summer vacation." I had been so out of it the past month, I completely forgot. He was on break. Feeling guilty? I straightened his collar. "Sorry about that, son." He tilted his head and smiled. "If you really feel bad, how about taking me on vacation? Let's go to the beach, do some diving, and eat seafood." He flashed a peace sign. All right, I couldn't help but smile back. Somehow, some of the darkness in my heart felt lighter. Luna arrived with Erick. We weren't even divorced yet. and she was already eager to take her place in our lives. Lucas greeted her cheerfully. "Hey, Aunt Luna, you came out in this scorching heat. Careful you don't want my little brother to melt in this weather." Luna glared at him, clearly upset, and turned to Erick. Looking for support, Lucas quickly explained. "Dad, I didn't mean anything by it. It's just that it's 40 degrees out time, genuinely worried about my brother." Erick looked at Luna with a serious face. "Wait in the car. Don't follow us inside." We submitted the divorce registration paperwork. Now we had to wait a month for the cooling-off period. Erick drove over and called out to us. "Let me give you a ride home." I was about to refuse when Lucas darted forward and opened the car door. "Mom, come on. I'm boiling in this heat." I had no choice but to follow him into the car. We sat in the back seat, while Luna took the front seat. She tugged on Erick's arm, speaking sweetly. "Honey, where should we go to celebrate later?" Lucas leaned forward. "Aunt Luna, how about little Jiangnan? My dad loves the food there. Whenever something good happened, he'd take my mom and me." From the rearview mirror, I saw Luna's face stretch longer than a donkey's, though it wasn't the most gracious reaction. I couldn't help but feel a bit pleased. Lucas kept going. "Mom, where should we go for our trip?" "Maybe we shouldn't go to the beach. How about Lijiang instead? People say Lijiang is the land of romance. Maybe I'll find you a new stepdad." Erick's face darkened, too. "Planning a trip?" He glanced at me through the rearview mirror. Yeah, I didn't want to talk to him, so I turned my head to look out the window. It's good to take a break, I thought to myself. But Lijiang? Isn't that interesting? Why not go to the beach? Sanyayi have a friend who owns a hotel there. Lucas leaned forward again. "Sounds great, Dad. Can we get a discount? With how much we look alike. Your friend would recognize me right away." Erick chuckled and reached out to ruffle Lucas's hair. "You're my son, of course. It's no problem." Father and son were having a great time, unaware of how Luna's face was growing darker than the bottom of a pot. In the end, Lucas and I went to Sanwai. As he put it, it'd be a waste not to take advantage of a good deal. He was full of excitement and had prepared a detailed 3-page travel itinerary, not wanting to be the fun-killer mom. I did my best to keep up with his energy. At 13 or 14, boys are just bursting with energy. During the day, I went skydiving, surfing, and diving with him. At night, we explored night markets and caught small crabs on the beach. By the end of each day, I felt like my bones were going to give out. The moment I hit the bed, I fell asleep instantly, not even having time to feel the sadness of my divorce. When we got back from Sanya, I was hoping to finally get some rest. But Lucas had complaints about my cooking. "Mom, your cooking isn't bad, but it's lacking variety." I shot him a sidelong glance. "You've been eating my cooking for years, and now you're starting to get picky." He scratched his head and grinned. "It's not that I'm picky, just a little tired of the same dishes. If you spice things up, I'm sure I'll grow to be 6'2" in no time." "Get lost." I patted his face and smiled. "After all these days, I finally figured it out. This kid has been trying to keep me busy in every possible way, just so I don't have time to feel sad. Maybe my taste in husbands wasn't great, but the child I raised is truly a treasure. What more could I be sad about?" I decided to look for a job. Even though Erick agreed to give me 1,000,000 yuan and promised to send child support on time every month, 1,000,000 yuan doesn't go very far when you start spending it. Just Lucas's annual tutoring fees cost nearly 200,000 yuan, not to mention daily expenses. If I just sit back and spend money, it won't take long before it's gone. Having been a housewife for over 10 years, I'd practically lost all my work skills. I thought I should find something easy and low stress to start with, then switch to something better once I gained some experience. I shared my plan with Lucas. After all, if I go to work, I won't have as much time to take care of him. He thought for a moment and said, "If you want to work, of course I support that. But finding a job is a lot like looking for a partner, requires careful planning." Hearing him talk like a little adult made me laugh out loud, and I couldn't resist teasing him. "Have you ever had a partner? How would you know they're the same?" He confidently replied, "Well, think about it. If you settle for just any job at first and then later find a better one, would you quit or stick it out?" I thought about it, and he had a point. If I took just any job, it would be a hassle to take time off and interview for a better one later. Lucas kept giving advice. There's no need to rush finding a job, but there's something more urgent. What is it? I asked. Stop my tutoring classes. No way, I firmly rejected him. Mom, he groaned, for subjects a dime your son, not a pack mule for the production team. After some friendly negotiation, we decided to cancel the Chinese and English tutoring sessions for now. We kept math and physics. If he made progress, we'd reconsider the rest. Long live Mom. Lucas was so happy he ran 2 circles around me and even volunteered to finish an English workbook. Our lives were slowly returning to normal. One day, I was placing an order using a link sent by my friend Alice. Lucas came over, looked at it for a while, and suddenly asked, "Does Aunt Alice make money doing this?" "It's okay," I said absent-mindedly as I completed the payment. He tugged at my hand, his bright eyes looking up at me. "Mom, I think this would be a good fit for you." My heart skipped a beat. Alice had always been good at spotting trends. And a few years ago, she became very successful in e-commerce. This time, she'd switched to a newly launched social group, buying platform. The user base was still small, but the shopping process was convenient. The promotion channels were flexible. The business seemed promising. The best part was the one-click resale feature, which meant I didn't have to worry about sourcing products. Perfect for a beginner like me. All right, I'll go talk to your Aunt Alice and get some advice. If there's one thing I've learned from over a decade as a housewife, it's the skill of shopping. I tend to be picky. When I shop, I don't just look at the price. I also care a lot about quality. I often compare several options before making a decision because of that. Friends always come to me for recommendations when they need to buy something, as Lucas said. Running this kind of platform really suits me, with Alice's help. I quickly set up my shop. I'm very strict about the quality of the products I resell, have to test them myself and make sure they're good before I sell. So, while I didn't make much money at first, I quickly built a loyal customer base. Before I knew it, almost a month had passed. Then Erick suddenly came to see me. He said he wanted to withdraw the divorce application. I was stunned for a long time. Even though I was the one who asked for the divorce, he probably had this idea in his mind for a while. Otherwise, why would he keep finding faults with me and grow so distant? And Luna's belly was getting bigger every day. She was probably pushing him hard. His sudden change of heart caught me off guard. "Why?" I asked. Erick's gaze flickered, and after a long pause he spoke slowly. I don't want to lose our family." I felt a strange sense of disorientation in the early years of his business. Erick often traveled for work. Before every trip, he would hug me and kiss our son's little face. "Sweetheart, I don't want to leave you both. As soon as I'm done, I'll come straight home." When did it all change? When did he stop wanting to come home? Seeing that I was wavering, he sat down beside me and took my hand. "Please, let's stop this, okay? Do you really want our son to grow up without a father?" I pulled my hand away and looked at him with a hint of sarcasm in my eyes. "Erick, you're the one who made the mistake, and now you want to avoid paying the price. How does that make any sense? When something strange happens, there's usually a reason behind it." I asked a friend to look into Erick's situation. What I found out shocked me. Erick runs a trading company. Basically, they make money by buying and selling goods, using their network to take advantage of price differences. 2 weeks ago, Luna was in charge of purchasing a batch of goods, but it turned out to be counterfeit. Their supplier ran off, and their clients refused to accept the goods, demanding full compensation for their losses. I heard that Erick had drained all his savings just to cover that financial hole. Forget about $1 million. He probably couldn't even scrounge up 10,000. His attempt to reconcile with me wasn't just about avoiding paying the $1 million. It was likely he had his eye on this apartment too. We live in a school district apartment, worth at least 5 to 6 million yuan at current market prices. When we agreed on the divorce terms, I don't know what Lucas said to him. Maybe he still felt a tiny shred of guilt toward us. Or maybe his business was doing well at the time, and he didn't care much about the money. He signed the divorce papers without hesitation, But now that he's fallen on hard times, those assets have become his lifeline. He wants to take everything for himself. And after all the trouble caused by his mistress, now he's trying to take advantage of me, his ex-wife. But it won't be that simple. The cooling off period had passed. We were supposed to finalize the divorce and get our certificates, but Erick had been avoiding me, probably trying to drag things out and stall the process. I was feeling incredibly frustrated when I suddenly received a package. Inside was a USB drive with proof of Erick's affair. There were videos of him and Luna cuddling as they walked into a hotel, screenshots of their explicit conversations, and records of money transfers with messages like 520 yuan and 1314 yuan, numbers that symbolize I love you and forever. I snapped a picture of the evidence and sent it to Erick. If we can't settle this through the divorce, I'll file a lawsuit, I warned. Later, Erick called. Are you really this heartless? We've been together for more than 10 years. You really going to throw it all away? That day it was pouring rain. When the call came, I was standing at the crossroads outside my building, the wind howling from all sides. I spoke softly, Erick. You were the one who threw everything away. First, he didn't respond. Finally, Erick showed up to finalize the divorce. He came alone. Luna wasn't with him. He looked utterly exhausted. I heard that his company had run out of cash and was nearly shut down. But they still needed to pay suppliers, and wages couldn't be delayed. He must have been overwhelmed as we parted ways. He suddenly grabbed my arm. Olivia, let's have a meal together. I was about to refuse when he hurriedly added, even if we're separating, we can still be friends, right? Can't we at least share a meal? I knew him well enough. His lowering himself like this wasn't because he couldn't let go of the past. He probably had something to say. I nodded. We found a random restaurant near the civil affairs office after sitting down. He kept twisting his glass, looking like he had something on his mind but didn't know how to say it, not wanting to waste time. I spoke first. Erick, just say what you need to. He hesitated, then cautiously said, about the 1 million yuan I promised you. Could I delay it for a while? I swear I won't back out of my promise. It's just, I cut him off. All right, said he, reached out, trying to take my hand, but I calmly pulled it back. I agreed to delay the payment for a year, with a 10% interest rate based on market prices. And I want to buy goods from your company at the special distributor rate.
Don't worry, I'll pay on time.
Alice had been complaining about how hard it was to find good suppliers. Either the prices were too high, or the quality wasn't good enough. Lucas, ever sharp, overheard and chimed in, and Alice, know where you can find exactly what you need. It felt like the perfect opportunity had just fallen into my lap. I'd been wondering how to bring this up to Erick, but now he'd opened the door himself. After all, becoming a special distributor for his company would require buying hundreds of thousands of yuan worth of goods. Erick looked surprised. He was stunned for a moment before forcing a bitter smile and saying, You're not the same as before. You used to, Erick. I interrupted him again. I knew what he wanted to say. The old me was entirely focused on him and our child. I'd given up a good career, just to dedicate myself to the family. Only young people get caught up in love. Middle-aged women like me who've been discarded only care about weighing the pros and cons. I raised my glass and clinked it against his. Here's to a successful partnership, Boss Erick. With a steady supply of products, I quickly shifted from just reselling to running my own group buying campaigns. On one hand, the profit margins were higher. On the other, I could build my own team of resellers, expanding my sales channels and reach since the platform was still new. It offered plenty of support and rewards. I registered a company and hired professional staff for operations, marketing, and customer service. Even though life was busy, it felt incredibly rewarding. But Erick hadn't been having such a good time lately. A while back, the supplier who sold him counterfeit goods was caught. He confessed that Luna knew from the start that the goods were fake, but kept quiet after receiving a 20% kickback. When Erick found out, he was furious and slapped Luna in front of everyone. Unexpectedly, Luna lost her balance, and her stomach hit the edge of the table, causing a placental abruption. Not only did Luna suffer, but the baby was stillborn. I heard Luna's family had been confronting Erick at his company every day, demanding answers. He was so scared he didn't even dare go to the office. When Alice told me about it, her voice was full of schadenfreude. See, I told you karma always catches up with those who deserve it. I was reviewing this month's financial report and responded calmly. As long as it doesn't affect our business, I'm fine with it. I had thought that since the love between Erick and me was long gone, we could at least keep a peaceful business relationship. But he seemed to have other ideas. Initially, I was in contact with a client manager from his company. But recently, Erick started reaching out to me personally, using maintaining client relationships as an excuse. He kept trying to win my favor. He even sent flowers to my house on Valentine's Day. It was during winter break. Lucas saw the flowers and looked at me with a strange expression. "Mom, are you seeing someone?" As I walked through the living room, I pulled the card out from the flowers. The flowers are endless. The moon is eternal, and our hearts beat as one. That was the same phrase Erick had written on the card the first time. Sent me flowers. But those flowers had already withered. The clouds had long drifted away. Things had changed. I threw the flowers and the card into the trash. Lucas was silent for a moment before speaking up. "Mom, does Dad want to get back together with you?" I thought it was time to have a serious talk with him. I took his hand and sat down on the couch. "Son, might think I'm being selfish, but there's no way your dad and I can go back to how things used to be." He squeezed my hand and smiled. "I'm glad you feel that way. Always remember, you are yourself first and my mom second. Nothing is more important than your happiness." I fought back tears, covering my mouth. With my son's support, I decided to take the opportunity to have an honest conversation with Erick. I invited him to meet at a restaurant near my house. As I was leaving, Lucas insisted on coming along. Unable to refuse, I brought him with me. It was the first time I reached out to Erick since the divorce, and he seemed to have made an effort with how he looked. He was wearing the shirt and shoes I had bought him, holding a bouquet of roses. When we arrived, he eagerly rushed forward. "Olivia, Lucas, you're here." Lucas looked at him and teased. "Wow. Dad, you don't look too good these days when I go out with Mom. People think she's my sister, but if I went out with you, they'd probably think you're my grandpa." Erick awkwardly smiled. "Your mom does look younger and younger," he said. Lucas nodded wisely and said, "That's why self-discipline is so important. If you can't even control yourself, you'll end up regretting it, right, Dad?" Couldn't even force a smile. Lucas ordered a few dishes that we both liked, then sat next to me and pulled out his phone. I shot him a stern look, and he quickly put his phone away. He chuckled. "I'm not playing games, just checking messages." "From my teacher." "Only one game," I replied. "Okay, Mom, you're the best." Seeing how Lucas and I interacted, Erick's eyes reddened a bit. He wiped away a tear and started piling food onto our plates. "It's been so long since we all sat down together like this," he said softly. I put down my chopsticks and sighed. "Erick." We suddenly, figure rushed toward us. They grabbed the soup and threw it at me. Lucas quickly stepped in front of me, and the hot soup splashed onto his chest and arms. Turning his skin red and swollen almost immediately, Luna screamed hysterically. "Olivia, can't you have some decency? Do you enjoy seducing other people's men? Does it hurt? Are you burned?" I ignored Luna and didn't care about the stares from the other diners. Panicked, I examined Lucas's body. "Mom, I'm fine." Lucas reassured me quickly. Luckily, the soup had cooled a bit, and although his skin was red and swollen, it wasn't. "Serious?" I finally let out a breath of relief. Erick had already pulled Luna away. "Luna, are you crazy? It's over between us. I've already paid your parents' compensation. What more do you want?" Luna's face twisted even more. "What's the point of compensation? My child is gone, and you all get to live happily ever after," she screamed. Was about to turn around to retort when I saw a flash of silver in her hand. Instinctively, I stepped in front of Lucas. A wave of pain shot through me. Through the haze, I vaguely saw Lucas lift his foot and kick Luna away. As my consciousness began to fade, a random thought flickered through my mind. All those years of taekwondo lessons. Totally worth the money, way more valuable than tutoring. I don't know how long I slept in a foggy state. I heard Lucas mumbling beside me. If your son didn't have these skills, you shouldn't have tried to be a hero, all right? I've got a ton of homework, and now I have to take care of you in the hospital. So tell me, how are you going to make it up to me? At the very least, you have to let me play on my phone for 3 days straight. The phrase play on my phone seemed to hit a nerve. I shot up in bed, hands on my hips, angrily shouting, Lucas, try it if you dare. Let's see how brave you've become. He stood in front of me, grinning slyly. Just then, the nurse came in with a tray. Oh, you're awake. Bed 24, you really need to stop overdoing it. With dieting, your blood sugar is ridiculously low. Huh. What diet? What low blood sugar? I avoided Lucas's gaze, feeling guilty. He looked at me with an amused smirk. If your blood sugar hadn't been so low, how could she knock you out with a blunt fork? I clung to the last shred of my dignity. That was a moment of anger, kid. You wouldn't understand, I said. As the saying goes, a wise person avoids dangerous situations. After what happened, I didn't dare get involved with Erick again. The 1-year period was almost up anyway. I had my lawyer send him a payment reminder letter. I wasn't worried he wouldn't pay. He owed me far more than just the $1 million, including unpaid invoices for goods. The money was transferred quickly. I also had my colleague prepare a formal notice that we wouldn't be renewing our contract, and we settled the accounts in stock, thanks to our strong reputation, excellent service, and catching the platform's early growth. My business was thriving. Many suppliers and manufacturers were reaching out directly, eager to provide products. Without Erick's supply, my business wasn't affected in the slightest. In fact, losing me as a major client would have made his situation even worse. He called me countless times, and I annoyed. Simply blocked him. When he tried to show up at my door, I was already on vacation, spending the last few days of the holiday traveling with my son in Lijiang. Just as I was about to board the plane, I received a call from Luna. Before she could start yelling, I spoke first. Luna, you and I were never competitors. Take a moment to think, how did you end up like this? Who was truly responsible? There was a long silence on the other end. Then I heard the sound of her hanging up. Their story might go on for a long time, but what does that have to do with me? I only hope they stay together, forever locked in their misery. When the new school term started, I attended a parent-teacher meeting for Lucas. The teacher announced the results of the final exams from the previous term. Lucas's grades were usually average. Out of 1,000 students in his grade, he typically ranked between 300th and 400th. But this time, I was completely surprised. He had made it into the top 200 of his grade, especially in Chinese. The subject where we had stopped tutoring him, he ranked 3rd in his class. The homeroom teacher told me, this child has great potential. If he keeps pushing himself, he'll have no problem getting into the main campus for high school. I was so excited I kept shaking her hand, thanking her repeatedly as I left the school. I still felt like I was floating. Lucas gave me a disdainful look. Mom, can't you calm down? If I make it into the top 100 next time, are you going to faint from joy? I chuckled. Well, it'd be worth it if I did. You see, I don't expect much for myself in this life. I just want you to have a bright future and lead a happy, fulfilled life. He stopped in front of me, shaking his head disapprovingly. Mom, your life is still long ahead of you. I want to make you proud, but I don't want to be your only reason to be proud. I looked up at him. His face was clear, his posture tall and confident. My little boy had grown up. I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. Double quotes. Son, your mom is going to start living an amazing life of her own too. Extra chapter. Lucas's story in my previous life. My parents divorced to ease my mother's burden. I chose to live with my father. He had a new wife and a new son. I was like an extra, living inside someone else's world, surviving by grabbing whatever scraps of attention I could. They didn't mistreat me, but watching them live happily as a family made me feel like an outsider, just a bystander, my father would say. If you don't behave, go back to your mom. Let's see if she can still afford to raise you, Aunt Luna would say. I provide for you, so what's the problem with asking you to do a few things? Even my little brother, just learning to talk, would say in his baby voice, You're not my brother. You're an outsider. I used to sneak back to see my mom. She worked at a convenience store, her back once straight but now hunched over, her eyes losing their clarity. One time, saw her talking to a stray cat outside her building, calling it by my name, Lucas. You haven't been home in so long. Mommy misses you. Later, trying to retrieve a kite stuck in a tree for my little brother, I fell. I hit the back of my head, and that was the end for me. At my funeral, everyone consoled my father. Erick, be strong. You lost one child, but you still have the little one. Only my mother sat silently in the corner. I wanted to hug her, but I could only pass through her body. She had become so thin that even the wind on the rooftop could easily blow her away. As she fell, she quietly said, Don't be afraid, son. Mommy's coming to be with you. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in the year they divorced. My mother was still caught up in the illusion of happiness, even though my father was already cold toward her, and his excuses had more holes than Swiss cheese. She still foolishly told me, Son, don't bother your dad. He works so hard to support us. I secretly rolled my eyes. With her love-struck mindset, my mom would definitely be roasted on social media if she posted about her situation. I had been given a second chance at life. I couldn't help her win back my father's heart, but I could help her get back his money. I started collecting evidence of my father's affair. Honestly, it wasn't even hard. My father was so brazen that he hadn't even bothered to delete any of his inappropriate chat records. I used the excuse of needing his phone to look up some information and instantly gathered plenty of proof. When the day came to decide who would get custody of me, my father was confident I'd choose him. He was sure of it because my mother was just a housewife. Without financial security, family love was like sand without wind. It would fall apart with just a few steps. But I just looked at him calmly and said, I'm going to live with my mom. Give her more of the assets or I'm afraid she won't be able to support me. In the study, my father still tried to threaten me. Your mom said that if you choose her, she'll walk away with nothing. I sighed and played a video I had downloaded from his chat app, the one of him and Luna having their little fun. Dad, you're about to have your own child. Why not stop fighting with my mom? She only has me. Honestly, I don't completely hate him, but love is stronger. It's enough to keep me from getting caught up in petty revenge. Instead, I look forward to new beginnings. My mom is actually a very capable woman. She was just blinded by family and love in my past life. Aunt Alice invited her several times to start a business together, but she was always too consumed by the pain of the divorce and losing me to agree. This time, casually, brought it up, and she agreed right away. And she did even better than I expected. She became more confident and optimistic. With each passing day, I like this version of my mom much more than before. She's no longer just a wife. And mother, she's an independent woman, and she's really doing great.